Welcome everybody to this video on the Colorado All-State Percussion audition material. My name is Dr. Tim Feerst. I'm Director of Percussion Studies at the University of Northern Colorado. What I'm going to do today is provide a walkthrough of all of the different audition requirements that you need to do in order to audition for the Colorado All-State Band 2025. We're going to cover everything that you need to do with mallets, snare drum, and timpani. The first thing that we're going to talk about is our scales. You have to do 3 scales on this audition. The first is an A major scale, 2 octaves with 8th and 16th notes at quarter note equals 92 beats per minute. You will also have to do the same thing with the F harmonic minor scale, quarter note equals 92, and 8th and 16th notes. This is all written in the audition requirements that you will find online on the Colorado All-State Band website. In addition to that, you also have to do a 2-octave chromatic scale starting on C at quarter note equals 104 beats per minute in 8th notes. Let's start with the A major scale for today. So with the A major scale, and the way that I set myself up for all of these different scales is I find my lowest note and I find my highest note. Then what I do is I position myself in between. And rather than shuffling around in order to move up and down the instrument, what I like to do is have my feet planted, and then if I need to lean to my left, what I do is I bend my left knee and straighten my right knee, and if I have to move up the instrument to my right, then I will bend my right knee and straighten my left knee. With the A major scale, we're dealing with 3 sharps right here: C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. Here's a demonstration of the A major scale, 2 octaves at roughly 92 beats per minute. It's extremely important to get the correct notes in your audition. These scales are extremely short to play, so make sure you get the correct notes. Beyond that, also make sure that you're getting a great tone on every single note that you're playing, and making sure that it's balanced between the naturals and the accidentals. When I play these scales, I like to play on the edge. The edge allows me to execute very fast passages with little to no effort. If you choose to play on the inside of the bars, that's completely fine. But for me personally, I like to play on the edge. And just so we're clear on what the edge is, what I'm talking about is not on top of the edge of the bar, but rather on this corner where the inside of the bar meets this side of the bar right here. So we want to play the corner. This is what it sounds like if I play right on top of the bar. Most definitely, there is a difference in the sound. If you play right on top of that bar, it's way too close to the notes. So be sure that you play right on that corner. Let's talk about the F harmonic minor scale. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the relative major, which is A flat major. The relative major of F minor is A flat major. So that means that they share the same key. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the A flat major scale, but instead of starting and ending on A flat, I'm going to start and end on F. What I just played here is F natural minor. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into F harmonic minor. The key difference is that rather than playing an E flat, what we're going to do is we're going to raise that note up a half step to create an E natural. If you are familiar with solfege or singing, this creates that T-do effect. So here's a slow demonstration of F harmonic minor. That is a pathway to get to F harmonic minor. And now I'm going to demonstrate the scale at quarter note equals 92 beats per minute. Just like with A major, what I'm doing is I am making sure that I'm getting the exact right tone that I need out of this instrument. Finally, let's talk about the chromatic scale. You're going to need to do, as a reminder, 2 octaves on starting on C, and in eighth notes at quarter note equals 104 beats per minute. The way that I find 104 beats per minute is I think about that ending cadence to the movie Drumline starring Nick Cannon. So I'm going to set myself up for the chromatic scale. I'm going to find my lowest note. I'm going to find my highest note, position myself in between, and then I'm going to play eighth notes. One thing that I will mention is that if you are playing higher in the range of the marimba, the high notes on the marimba don't cut as much. So because of that, you're probably going to have to dig in just a little bit more in order to make sure that all notes are balanced. So to recap, A major, F harmonic minor, and the chromatic scale. This is what you have to do for your scales for the Colorado All-State Band audition. So now we're going to talk about the prepared mallet etude that you have to do for this audition. So this etude comes from Recital Pieces for Mallets by Garwood Whaley, published by JR Publications. The selection that you're going to be playing is page 8, number 6 from this book. When you record your audition, a marimba is preferred, but any mallet instrument can be used, whether it's a vibraphone or a xylophone. You're going to start at the beginning, and then you're going to end at the downbeat of the second measure of the 6th line. The tempo is going to be eighth note equals 120 beats per minute. As with all the tempos that are listed in the audition list, if you feel that you will get a better run of it playing it slightly slower, then that's perfectly fine. It's much better to play a cleaner performance at a slower tempo than a not so clean performance at that performance tempo. With this particular prepared mallet etude, it is called Allemande by Thomas Baltzar, which is an example of Baroque music. With no dynamic markings or suggestions, there are plenty of opportunities for musical expression. With that being said, too much musical expression from a volume and/or a tempo standpoint can lead to a disjointed performance. So I recommend the following approaches. Follow the contour of the notes. As they rise up, increase in volume. As they rise down, decrease in volume. As you reach what sounds like an arrival point, be sure to announce that through your musical expression. This can be done by slightly tapping the brakes on the tempo or also from a volume standpoint. At the last measure of the repeat and at the very end of the excerpt, I slow down slightly to create a sense of finality, but I do not do so much that it makes the rhythm completely different than what is written. It is also recommended to follow Baroque performance practices for this piece, particularly with the trill at the end, and we'll get to that in a second. The piece can be performed with either 2 mallets or 4 mallets. For most of the demonstration here, I'll be using 2 mallets. But if you can play with 4 mallets, then by all means use 4 mallets. In both instances, I recommend arpeggiating both chords in this etude. In terms of recommended mallets, I recommend using something that's kind of medium hard. A couple of specific examples include Vic Firth Robert Van Cise M114 marimba mallets, Vic Firth Contemporary Series M241 mallets, or the Balter Pro Vibe B23 mallets, which we also call Balter Blues. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough of this. So take a look at measure 1. With measure 1, you have a pickup and then you have that chord right there. What I recommend doing is arpeggiating the downbeat chord. If you prefer to quantify the arpeggio to a specific rhythm, I recommend using 30-second notes. It's going to sound like this. So by doing that, you have something that, from a logic standpoint and from a musical feeling standpoint, makes sense. Because this etude was not written for a mallet instrument, there are a lot of times where you're going to have to get creative with the sticking. and because it's written for violin, not for marimba, so it doesn't necessarily quote-unquote fit on the instrument. So what I recommend doing is following the stickings that I recommend in the packet that I have that I will share with all of you. One thing that I also recommend is that the arpeggio at the end of the repeat is also using 30-second notes as well, again, if you want to quantify it to a certain rhythm. Again, this will be a lot easier to facilitate when you do a slight slowdown of that tempo at the end. A couple times, especially like in measure 2, what you'll have to do is you'll have to do what I do, which is a double right, kind of like this. That motion can be a little bit difficult when you're starting it. So what I recommend doing is creating an exercise out of it. So take something like a standard drumline double beat exercise. That'll really help with those leaps right there. Because what'll end up happening is that over time you'll build that muscle memory. With that motion, think horizontal motion. Remember, you want your mallets to move like they're record needles, not like windshield wipers. After the repeat, and I recommend not taking the repeat, you start the second half of the piece. This is a new melody with new ideas and a new character. So be sure to reflect that in your musical expression. It's like a new character has arrived in the movie, so therefore it needs to have its own theme. And again, there are some leaps in this measure. Be sure to use wrist and move with that horizontal motion over vertical motion. Let's talk about the end of that very last measure that you have to do. In Baroque practices, when you come across a trill, you alternate rapidly between the note and its upper neighbor. When you arrive at the trill, play a double stop of a B flat and a G natural. I know that it has F natural written in there, but start with a G natural. Afterwards, play a brief roll between G natural and F natural, but be absolutely certain to end the roll with an F before playing the final E flat, F, and E flat. Kind of like this. No matter what you do, make sure that A, it's in time, and B, at the end of that trill, that you end on that F natural. Again, I recommend following my recommended sticking, but if you have another sticking that works, that gets you what you need, then by all means do it. I do not judge other different stickings. And now for a performance of Alaman by Thomas Baltzar with the Colorado All-State Band Cuts.